warm welcome from myself, Annemarie van der Merwe, from FluidRock, and the rest of the people that I will introduce to you shortly. As I was saying, it's again our conversation on the topic and the theme of this year, which is all around business purpose, the why of the organization. Some of you may recall that in April this year, we had the privilege of hosting Dr. Victoria Heath on the topic, and who really gave us kind of the bigger context and the picture around the need for a clear business purpose. And she related it to acting in long-term interest, not only of self, but also of others. You may recall that she started off also her presentation of linking routine decision making in our organizations with unsustainability, which was quite an eye-opener as well. And she referred us to the global standard for purpose, which is called PAS 808 of 2022. And she also briefly referred to ISO 37000, that some of you may know has purpose as its primary principle, its foundational principle. And at FluidRock, we are absolutely sold, if I can call it that. We believe in the value of a clear business purpose. And because we live in boardrooms of organizations, all kinds of different organizations, we do see the consequences of either having or not having clear North Star, clear direction on where we are going with the organization. That really also helps us direct all decision making in the organization. It's for this reason that on the 16th of August, when we host our second annual conference this year, that will be hosted at the campus in Bryanston, where our theme will be the business case for purpose, understanding how you need to have a clear purpose for the growth, and sustainability, long-term sustainability and survival of the organization. A great lineup of speakers that I'm sure Renelle will refer to a little bit later. So this thing of purpose, what is it? What does it look like? So we wanted to go into now getting a little bit more practical on what this purpose is, what it should look like, and how do we go about crafting it. Some will say to us, the purpose is the kind of reason for the existence of an organization, the why of the organization. It's not the same, they say, as your mission statement or your vision statement, although they are all closely interrelated. Some people have called it the driving force that enables the expression of the true identity of the organization, while others refer to it as kind of the catalyst for creating the right culture in an organization. That also makes the purpose real, not just something that you've got up, in the reception or on your website of the organization. And there are numerous examples. If you take, I think, Amazon's purpose, they say, is to be the Earth's, and I like that kind of, the Earth's most customer-centric company. That's their purpose. And everything they do every day is to further that purpose, is aligned with that purpose. So today, to start the conversation in helping us to unpack the concept of purpose even more, we're very privileged to be joined by two highly competent, capable, experienced individuals on this topic. We have Carol Kondo from the organization called Within. Carol is a seasoned growth specialist with what she says is purpose-driven approach, been all around the world, and she can share a little bit of that with you later on. At Within, the organization that she also represents, Within's website says that they work at the intersection of brand, culture, and growth. And I think that the purpose really is at the heart of all of those elements of any organization. But before we're going to ask Carol to just share with us a little bit their practical experience and how they go about helping organizations to craft the purpose. We're first going to be go a little bit theoretical. But I know when Runel does it, there's nothing theoretical about it. She has the ability to make any theory come alive. So Runel, our CEO at FluidRock, is a governance strategist on steroids, is basically what I would call her. She's really delved into ISO 37000. She's a walking encyclopedia on it. And she's going to just take us a little bit through that concept of purpose as ISO tries to convey and explain it. And then we're going to hand over to Carol before we have a good conversation and hopefully get your input, your comments. Please use the chat, to communicate with us. As always, we promise to finish sharply at 1 o'clock. So yes, to stick to our timing, Runel, I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Anne-Marie and Carol. It's so nice to be here. I think I want to update my LinkedIn byline because I like what you said. Right, I'm going to take that. So it's very interesting to talk about purpose, but it's also important to see it in context. So there's a standard, if you haven't heard of before, it's called ISO 37000. It was started in 2017 by ISO, and actually there's a lot of South Africans on the committee, like Carolyn Chalmers and some others, because I think through Prof. King, South Africa has become a bit of a corporate governance, or we have built corporate governance expertise in South Africa. And it's very interesting because in a lot of cases, I say that corporate governance can be an export. It's an export service of South Africa because we do have, we do actually have quite a lot of expertise. And especially if you look at some of the integrated reports that some of our listed entities do, it's really, really fantastic work. Then in 2021, it was approved by the ISO member countries. There's 164 ISO member countries. And here's a map of the ISO member countries. You'll see that some of them are missing, and that's the Republic of Congo. It's countries like that don't participate. There's different kinds of membership. But generally, why this I think is very important is to know that ISO is a global governance guidance document. It's not what we call global north or global south. So it's not a document that's only written by developed countries and it's only applicable to them or only listed entities or state-owned. So it's really a governance guidance document that can be applied by all companies, regardless of your size. I call it a company, but I actually mean organization. It doesn't mean you have to be incorporated. So anything where people come together to organize something or for some kind of purpose, ISO can be used. And in terms of ISO, it actually says that, and I'm reading here, it says global recognition that every organization needs effective and ethical governance. Now, those words in South Africa, we know because it's King 4, and that good governance creates and maintains an organization with a clear purpose that delivers long-term value, consistent with the expectations of its relevant stakeholders. And of course, the environment is also a stakeholder, and if you look at the weather at the moment, especially, and the floods in Cape Town and across all some of coastal areas, it is a bit scary. So is it normal? Is it usual? Is it, no, it's not. There's an upset, right? And organizations have to think differently. So to borrow one of your quotes, Anne-Marie, you always quote Paul Brontes, and he says, it's the right and obligation of every director to be informed and to act deliberately with the diligence and competence of a reasonably prudent person in similar circumstances. Now, how do directors know what is that diligence and competence? And that's why these frameworks are important. These frameworks are not made because it's the be all or end all, but it's definitely been thought through by very, very informed, clever people who can help us and guide us. So if we go to the next page, this is what we call the ISO 37000 tree. And the reason we call it a tree, if you look in the ISO standard, they have it structured slightly differently. But the reason we do this is because what we have seen, or how we can easily understand it, is that if you break down ISO 37000 into different elements and modules almost, there's governance conditions, governance principles, and governance outcomes. Now, the conditions is really to say that if you want a successful business, if you want to be able to pick the fruit off the tree, you really need to have the proper soil, you know, and what makes good soil? What is the compost? So it's having integrated governance, you know, and there's elements. I just want to pick out a few of them. But for example, it's about not thinking about certain elements in your organization in silos. For example, we do business and we have stakeholders on the side somewhere. We do business and what we affect, how do we affect environments on the side somewhere? It all should be an integrated, integral part. So what we do a lot for organizations is help them really do integrated decision-making frameworks. When we make a decision, how do we make sure we incorporate all the factors? Of course, these are the material decisions. I'm not expecting people to do it for the minor decisions, but and then it becomes a lifestyle. You know, in some companies, they have anti-risk is part of their DNA. You know, it's like be your brother's carer, that kind of thing. So this should be part of your DNA. And then how your governing body is structured, you know, again, it's governing body, any kind of, you know, it's composition, structure, competence, and we really kind of just flick through it. But if you don't have the right competencies on your board, so yes, it includes governance or whatever, but that you will set the wrong strategy, which means you might not end up to be a sustainable company, right? So really having the right people in the room, but it's also about effective delegation into your structures. And ISO really goes into what does that delegation mean? It's not I order, you take. It's a very interesting way. So moving up to the governance principles is we say, okay, if you've got the right soil, it means your tree can be planted and it can grow. So the primary governance principle, according to ISO, is purpose. Okay, so I will leave the detail of purpose to Carol because she's got some very interesting comments around there. So ISO goes into a purpose and it's very interesting, the approach, but it basically says if you don't have a proper purpose, you can't have branches to the tree, you can't have leaves, you're not going to have bear fruit. And then the foundational principles is what I call the branches, and the enabling principles, the leaves. And what you want to get to is really the fruit. Now, the fruit is the governance outcomes, and there you want to have a company that is ethical behavior right through. You want effective performance. And if you really look at the definition of the word effective, it means you do reach your outcomes. So this means you do perform, you do make money, but performance is measured across all the 6 capitals, right? So that is a essential part of business, is actually to perform, including financially, of course. And then responsible stewardship. And how will responsible stewardship be measured? Actually, responsible stewardship is measured by this whole picture, by having everything in here that you have. And what ISO says is that all of these principles are applied concurrently. So at the same time, all of these areas gets attention and is developed and improved. And over time, basically, you will have a sustainable business that lives in a sustainable environment. Anne-Marie, yes. So that I think is an overview. I think I'm going to hand over back to you because I would love to also hear what Carol has for us today.
Thanks, Chanel, and thanks for setting for us kind of that foundation and really where does purpose fit into ultimately achieving those fruits, those outcomes that you were referring to, and why it is important that we have conversations, more conversations on this topic. So, Carol, without any further ado, we would love to hear you on the topic, so please go ahead. You can just thank you.
Thank you very much to the both of you, Ronelle and Anne-Marie. It's a pleasure to be here with you, everyone. You've set quite an interesting context there for me, and you've set me up. You've said there that its purpose is an essential part of the tree, the root system, and we all understand how important root systems are in sustaining a tree, isn't it? So we need to have the right conditions. The root has to go deep enough. There's so much there that looks at the ecosystem of what happens with trees. And what I'm here to do today is to help you understand how we approach purpose at Within People. And Anne-Marie has done a great job of introducing Within People as an organization. So I'm a partner there. We're actually celebrating 10 years today. So it's happy birthday to us. And we are currently based in, I think, about 4 continents in the world at the present moment. And our biggest joy is working with organizations to kind of unpack why they exist, what is the impact that they have in the world, and so on. So what we have here before us is what we call the Within People Purpose Framework. And the foundation of that largely sits in the work of Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek really believes in the power of people within the organization and the why, understanding why organizations exist. And Within People has what we call our purpose framework, which looks at the purpose, the vision, the values, and what we offer. But for this particular session, I'm just going to focus on the first part of our session, which is just the purpose and how we get to the purpose. What do we consider essential ingredients to purpose? And a lot of the time you hear people say things like, it's my ikigai, the reason why I exist if you were Japanese, it's my North Star, it's the driving force. And why is it important for an organization to have an ikigai, or the reason why an organization exists? What does it matter? Can't we just craft a sentence and put it there and then just let people believe in that if they do believe in that? So it's a very interesting concept, because businesses are about people, and people were designed somehow to believe in something. And it's so important for organizations to craft purpose that resonates, purpose that's true, and purpose that will keep the organization anchored during difficult times. Yes, businesses are about making money, which is very important. Nobody sets up a business, especially a profit-making business, for the sake of setting it up just for fun. There is an income there to be created for others, and job creation and a lot of things. But as people work, because human beings are innately created to exist for something, I need to know that the work that I do inspires me to show up every day. And if the organization does not have that clearly articulated for me, it is difficult for me to connect myself as an employee within that business framework. Why am I showing up? Why is it important for me to work for this organization? What impact does this organization have in the world? If this organization didn't exist, what would I be doing? And how do we foster entrepreneurial ways of being within our people if they don't know that they have impact? But they only would understand that if we have a clearly articulated purpose that really helps them buy into the reason why they work for the organization that they do, what the organization that they do does in the world. And if it wasn't there, then we'd really know that something huge is missing in the world. So let's take a look at the purpose formula that we apply when we are looking for purpose. And at Within, we use a very simple formula to help you find your purpose. And we have 3 bubbles that you can see there: problem, impact, and role. And if we start with the problem bubble over there, it really seeks to address or answer questions around what problem was your business set up to solve. I know a lot of people started their businesses with a friend when they were having coffee, and then they realized, oh my God, this coffee doesn't taste great, and we need to start a coffee company. But when you really think about it, it's the fact that the coffee didn't taste great that they wanted to solve something. So when you think about some of these aspects of your business or the aspects of your purpose, what problem was our business set out to solve in the world? And if you craft or you think about your purpose with that context of I'm solving a problem rather than I'm out to make money, it really connects the human's essence or desire to exist a full and meaningful life to the concept of making money, and brings those 2 things together. What are you passionate about? Is it about giving people great tasting coffee that makes them feel like they've had the best thing that they needed to make their day good? What is so essential about that cup of coffee? Is it about bringing people together in your space to talk about the challenges that they have? Is it about bringing coffee from other parts of the world so that other people get united with different cultures? What is it that your business has been set out to solve? What are you addressing? And when you can articulate that for your own people, they also take it upon themselves as they work, be it on the shop floor, in the manufacturing factory. I am here to contribute in solving this particular problem that my organization solves at a larger scale. We also look at impact as one of the bubbles. What is the impact on people's lives that you want to achieve when this problem is solved? So if you decide you're going to provide water for the elephants as an organization, for example, during a drought, what impact is that going to have on the ecosystem, on generations to come who are going to see the missing rhinos or whatever the case may be? But you want to create a purpose that allows people and your staff to understand the impact that the business is creating in the world. Hence, we also consider things like environmental impact of what we are doing. How are we impacting the world that we exist in? Are we saying the right things? Are we doing the right things? So are we solving our problem? What problem are we solving? And in the process of solving that problem, what impact do we leave? Maya Angelou is always famous, if I'm not mistaken, for talking about how you always leave people feeling, and that's a whole impact piece. So when a business has been run in a particular area, it's also quite important to find out what is the impact of our business within the environment in which we exist. And it is so useful to look at a purpose that tries to articulate that. And then we say to ourselves, what role do you uniquely play in solving that problem? And understanding your role because it is essential in the purpose conversation, because there are lots of retailers, for example, who sell maybe tomatoes, but every particular tomato seller has a unique role that they play. Maybe it is the way that they converse that creates spaces for people to feel like, as I buy my tomatoes, I kind of get a bit of therapy as well. What is it that what role are you doing? What makes you different? What is unique about you? What is it that we'll experience when we come into your store, when we come into your therapy organization, whatever it is that you are running? What makes you unique? And this whole process of surfacing these three bubbles is done by having conversations with internal stakeholders. And when I talk about internal stakeholders, I'm not talking about the board members, because definitely that's a different conversation. I'm talking about, let's go back to the bubbles. Thank you. I'm talking about the people that are serving on the shop floor. Those are your internal stakeholders, the ones that are client facing, the ones that are creating. I'm also talking to the people, the external stakeholders, and the external stakeholders are the people that are buying your products. What are they saying about your product? When they wear your shoes, how do they feel? When they wear your dresses, do they feel like they can walk into an interview and feel like half of their problems are solved because your dresses make them feel so great? It's already solved the confidence problem externally for them at that point. So external stakeholders give us input on the impact that we have. If it's a problem with shoes, how long do your shoes last? For me, as a young woman of color who has to walk maybe 3 times a day to fetch my child, to then go to the shop. There's so many walking that I do because I don't own a car. So if I'm going to wear your shoes, can I say that your shoes solve my problems of wear and tear and I can wear them longer? So we interview all those people to find out whether the products that you are making or the solutions that you're providing are actually meeting the problems and that you have cited. And it's such an intense conversation because we really try and dig with questions that really allow people to talk to their experiences of you. It might be having entered your offices. How did they feel when they entered your offices? When they entered your stores? Did they feel like your till operators were willing to talk to them? How are these things playing out on a day-to-day? Once we've gathered all those insights with you, we'll sit down with you and unpack them and let you know this is what we are seeing. This is what is coming through as a powerful theme. It seems like this organization is really huge on helping people find out how best to run their organizations. And we craft those statements, the purpose statements, based on the input that we get from your internal stakeholders, your external stakeholders, reviews on Hello Peter, and everything else that everyone else is saying about you, and what you are saying about yourselves, and how you've answered these questions. So it's such an interrogative process, but it really helps you understand that after we had that coffee and decided we're starting our business, what else were we looking to do? So let's take a look there, Ronelle, at some of the key principles that we consider to make sure that the purpose statement addresses and meets the questions that are asked by the three bubbles. So questions that we will ask are, is your purpose authentic to you? Or are you just photocopying Carol's purpose and saying, you know what, I'm going to be like Carol's business, copy and paste, there we go. Does it reflect the original intention of the business? Does it solve that intention of the business? Will your purpose guide the brand forever? And that's a very interesting question to answer for yourselves, because your purpose guides you when things get difficult in an organization. Sometimes when you decide to retrench, what are some of the principles beside HR principles? Your purpose should guide you. Are we doing this in a way that is true to our purpose, that really speaks to how we show up as an organization? Do you believe in it wholeheartedly? And the concept of building belief, this is why we encourage stakeholder input from the person who sweeps the floor, because we want them to be part of the process of creating this purpose. So where you take people along with you on a journey, they will understand why the purpose is the way it is. Does it align and guide your vision as an organization? And in alignment, what is not quite right with our vision? Whatever we're trying to do in this case, is it really true to who we are as a brand? Is it true to who we are as an organization? And if our intention by 2025, which is possibly our vision, is to be the best retailer, if we do that according to our purpose, will we succeed? The answer should be a yes. Is your purpose memorable? You'd want somebody to have a very short purpose. I've seen some very interesting purpose where it's like 6 lines, 7 lines, and you're like, I wonder whether a new trainee or an intern would be able to memorize this and really understand it. So a purpose, we believe, must be short, must be memorable, something that people can access easily from a language perspective as well. Is it free of targets and numbers? Once your purpose has targets and numbers, it's no longer a purpose, it's now a goal. And goals and purpose are different. Can it pass the Goldilocks test? So I'm sure most of you are familiar with the story of Goldilocks, about the porridge and the 3 bears. And she says, Mommy, the porridge is not too hot, it's not too cold. So when we do the Goldilocks test, we need to try and ascertain whether our purpose is just right. And when we say just right, what we mean is sometimes a purpose is so high, it's so lofty. So for example, when we say, we want to be the best in the world, what does best in the world look like? If you were to look for behaviors to support that purpose, which is what we do with our values now, how would you support purpose like I want to be the best in the world? For different people, the best looks different. So trying to make your purpose just right means it's not too high so that it's inaccessible. It's not too low context too, where it's so limited to, we want to be, for example, red only. There needs to be an opportunity for flexibility and agility within your purpose. Whatever it is that you're trying to do with your purpose has to meet you just in the middle, just right, where it's lukewarm, not too hot to burn you and not too cold so that you cannot identify with what is being said. Is your purpose relevant to any audience? If you find that your purpose sticks to a particular group of people, then there could be something to question there with your purpose, because if your business is about people, then you've got to understand that anyone can be your customer, because fortunes change. Anyone could be a customer for Gucci today. So is your purpose relevant to any audience? Can it fit? And we might not be able to capture everyone, but let it try at least to meet the majority of the audience. Does it reflect where you put most of your energy? And this is so useful because sometimes one of the things that stops businesses from flourishing is because our energy is so distracted. We're not focused and streamlined and focusing on one thing. We are about shoes. That's all we are about. That's what we're going to focus on. We're not going to focus on overalls and groceries and other things. We're just about shoes. We're passionate about creating shoes for women like myself who wear size 9. And I feel that's a huge problem in the world because people don't make enough size 9s. So I'd love to find somebody who's focused on just creating size 9 shoes only. And that becomes the only thing that they're passionate about. So it's pulling these principles really tests the truth, or should I say the authenticity of your purpose, and asking yourselves those relevant questions allows you to gather real data in real time, talking to real people who've used your product and have something real to say about what it is that you're putting out there. And in some of the cases that we've had here, in particular in South Africa, where we've created purpose statements with organizations, one of the most beautiful pieces of feedback we've received are during COVID, when the chips were down and this particular business was doing so well because they were a food retailer. One of the most important things they said to us was, our purpose kept us grounded because things were happening left, right, and center. People were dying. Our staff members were dying too. But because our purpose anchored us, and their purpose is really focused on people, they could huddle around that purpose because it kept them connected with one another. And they were able to keep moving because the purpose was true to what they're about. Are we looking after our people? Are we looking after our customers as they come in store? Does that align with our purpose? Can we take our people home? Can we provide transport for them? Can we give them masks on time? Can we make sure that if anybody is sick and someone passes away, are we willing to send food over to that particular family to make sure that they have what they need? Are we providing counseling service? This is all those things they said really allowed them to live their purpose in its fullest. So a purpose is not just there to align the business, but it also helps you during difficult times. And if you look at the nature of humanity generally, human beings need something to believe in. I cannot echo this enough. It might be God, it might be the goodness of humanity, but human beings essentially are created to believe in something. And when we remove the material part of things like, oh, the fancy tables in the canteen area, or the lunch perks, or the holidays to Hawaii and the bonus incentives, at the end of the day, we need to believe in what our business is doing. And when we see its impact on a day-to-day basis, when we see that we're improving lives and solving problems, it allows the human being to show up meaningfully in the workplace because they know that they are contributing to the existence or the sustenance of somebody or somebody's lives, and is changing something within the society. And that has a huge impact on why people show up, and it affects things like absenteeism, why people are late for work. Sometimes it's not just about salaries, but it's about really articulating to people that, you know what, when you come here and we do this together, this is what you're actually doing in the bigger world. Yeah.
Carol, you've got me like, I'm just listening. You can continue. I can absolutely see you passionate about your purpose. So it's absolutely a pleasure to listen to you. And so many thoughts were going through my mind as you were talking. And I think the one word that kept on coming up is the word trust. You know, the legitimacy of who we are. There was a book that I once read, written by Jeff Henderson, called Know What You Are For. And it kind of talks to, especially to your point about your stakeholders. In the book, Know What You Are For, Jeff says there are two very important questions to be asked in any business. If you want to have a long-term sustainable business, these questions, the one question you need to ask internally, what do we want to be known for? You know, to get clear about what are we, all the points that that you raised, what are we passionate about? What do we intend solving? What do we want our impact to be? What do we want, people just to know about us? And then the second question is the same question, what are we known for? But you're asking this to your external stakeholders. What are we known for, truly? And the bigger the gap between what you want to be known for and what you are actually known for, the bigger your legitimacy problem. And the more difficult it becomes to manage your stakeholder relationships because you're not trusted. You don't have legitimacy, with your external stakeholders. And that is a very, very difficult environment to operate in because our stakeholders ultimately gives us our license to operate. And I think just from that perspective, and again, going back to our conference with the business case of purpose, how important, if you want to grow your business, is this topic and the starting point.
That's so true, Ronelle. Trust, we cannot talk enough about trust. And this is why sometimes people stop buying products, because they look at your purpose statement and look at how you're showing up and they're saying there is no relationship here. There are double standards here. There's no correlation here. And internally as well, there are times, depending on how great your internal work culture is, you would find that employees can call out senior leaders and tell them, you know what, you're not leading according to our purpose. And it actually allows for great feedback conversations. How are we not showing up to our purpose? Because the purpose comes to life. You know how rings bring marriages to life? A ring is an artifact, isn't it? Like a wedding ring. And when you wear it, you bring the concept of marriage to life. With the businesses internally, the purpose brings that context to life. So when you live it and you show up in particular ways, you are bringing that purpose to life. And you allow your employees to give you an opportunity to tell you how you are showing up based on your purpose. And it's language that we all know. And because we've crafted it together, it doesn't even create friction. So I would easily say to you, know what, you're not leading according to the purpose these days. And you're like, what's that about, Carol? I'm like, you're not helping me grow. Our purpose says help me grow. And these are the aspects that I feel you're not helping me grow. And when that becomes the center of what we do, it allows everybody to be aligned and be on the same page.
Brings that alignment. Ronelle, I mean, if you think about your tree that, which it's such a great way of illustrating the whole concept, that the purpose is really that main root of that tree.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just wanted to have a quick, I just want to share something quickly. I'm watching the Tour de France. I don't know how many people are watching the Tour de France. It's the first time in my life that I've actually watched every single stage. And yesterday, one of the riders fell. He was fourth, and I didn't know this before. So maybe if everybody knows this, just indulge me a bit. There's about 12 riders or 10 riders or whatever, and their purpose is to get their main person to the end. And this rider, they were in the peloton, and he fell 12 kilometers from the finish, and he was doing very well. And he was battered and bruised. And that whole team kind of stopped. They got him up. His helmet wasn't on right. He wasn't okay. They should have done a concussion test. I'm not sure. But anyway, they got him there. He lost 2 minutes in the ride. But I mean, their purpose, it's a bit easier if you're a sports team, because your purpose is to win, right? But you also have sponsors. You've got to show your sponsorship off. And sometimes they will get as a team member to do a tag just so that the sponsor can feature more. They might not be they're not going to win, they're not going to finish or whatever. So what's very interesting is how purpose then ties to teamwork, how purpose ties to ethical decision making. I mean, you spoke about the team during COVID. We find it a lot in our business, where if we are faced with something, we're like, okay, guys, this is the purpose. So this might go against our financial performance at the end of the year, but it will further our purpose. So yes, we'll do it. Or no, guys, this is not in alignment. We're not aligned with these people, so we're not going to work with them, or is this what we delivered in line with our purpose? Because as a business, sometimes you don't get it right all the time, right? So how do you go back and get it? And like you spoke about leadership, as a leader, I don't get it right all the time. And you have to go and think about it and rejig and reset. So definitely the purpose is that's why it's called the primary principle. And it can definitely help to guide what you are about, you know. And the thing is, it is philosophical. If you think about it, it is philosophical. And I don't know, when CAs go to CA school, they cut open and they take out the philosophical and the hard, guys, I'm just joking, but you know, but it's not main, but we are philosophical beings. If you think about all the great philosophers over time, it's what gives us life, our life's purpose. It's what make us do things or not do things. So if you, like you said, if you can tie with you, I love your formula, Carol. If you can tie all of that together, you know, where does it end up? So I don't know if you've seen some correlation between purpose and ethics and performance and legitimacy of a business.
Definitely, Ronelle, especially the ethical piece. Many a times businesses have gone wrong when they decided to do things or take on stakeholders or decide to take on projects that were not in alignment with their purpose. And it's made people do questionable things from an ethical perspective. And even the way we are showing up currently with global issues, if we're to go down that track, we had a podcast in our organization a few weeks ago where we were examining the impact of social justice issues currently. Sometimes businesses make the wrong decisions because we are not examining the very reason why we were created as a business in the first place. Why do we exist? What we are doing now, is it really the right thing to do? Is it in line with our purpose? If it's not, then it's not the right project to take on, no matter how much it costs the business from a financial perspective.
Mm. It becomes your North Star, as you said, some people call it, for everything you do. I had an interesting conversation this morning with the chair of board of a semi-state owned company. They also have some private institutional investors, although government is the biggest shareholder. And we had this interesting conversation about the tension between the agenda of government being developmental, that's what they want to achieve through this organization, yet your institutional investors are looking for a return on their investment. So, if we spend money on building something new while your investor know, but when are you going to declare dividend again? And my thinking was, and my response to him was, this is why it is so important that one clearly communicates your purpose as an organization so that your stakeholders, including, wherever, including your shareholders and whoever they are, can fully understand what's driving your decision. That it shouldn't even come as a surprise why you decide to go left or go right, because it's in line with your purpose. And that will just make the life for boards, for leadership also easier if they've got that very clearly articulated purpose that guides everything they do.
Which reminds me, let's take a look at the next slide, because that's something that's very useful, actually, this particular slide here. So when we create a purpose based on the inputs that we get, it is so important to understand what each word in the purpose statement means. So at Within People, this is our purpose statement: help people find purpose and grow. And there's a verb there, help. So you have to understand what it is that you are doing, the doing word behind your purpose statement. And each particular word has its own definition. And when we have finished the crafting of this and the organization has agreed that this is what we want to do, everyone is sent a copy of this, and we all meaning make, including some of the investors as well. So they need to know why this exists the way it does, how we came to this conclusion, and we play it back so that when they ask us sometimes to make some decisions, it's easier to say, you know what, it's difficult for us to take this path because when we create our purpose, this was not part of the agenda as well. And this doesn't align with what we're doing. And if you look at each and every word within our purpose statement, it means something. They're not just random words that we have thrown together, but they really help us align. They really help us deliver on solving the problem that we have set out as an organization to solve in the world, and the reason why we are existing. And we know for sure, if FluidRock wasn't here, we wouldn't have so many people participating. If FluidRock wasn't here, they wouldn't be sharing ISO. If FluidRock exists for a particular reason in this world. And if it's not there, the world has got to feel that FluidRock is not there. And that's the kind of impact that you want to leave in the world.
You've got me all remotivated and energized, Carol, for our own purpose, which we, being in the governance field, so also passionate about wanting to, what we always say is we all want to live in a society that's fueled by well-governed and ethical corporate citizens. And, although that's our vision, I think that in itself is already a good start to create a purpose where we can also, like you did, which is very impressive, really dissected every word that everybody can understand. If you look at your word on find, you purposefully, chose that word because you were making the point people already have what they need, but we're going to help them to discover that in order for them to grow. So I think this is such a useful slide, and I'm very glad that we've put this up as well. But it's also, Ronald, I don't know whether you have any comment on this as well before I continue.
Maybe I'll interject here, Anne-Marie. It is not related directly to the slide, but it's what you said previously. It is about parliament and about a purpose of a country. So in Saudi, they have a very clear 2030 goal, the whole country. Everybody knows about it. If you get into a taxi, they talk to you about it. And we actually have Adam Ginster that's going to talk to us about it at the conference, more about the Saudi kind of view, because it's very interesting to have a country with a purpose statement and a view. So us with our new parliament, it's going to be a very interesting a rom-com, telenovela, whatever they're going to show us. But I mean, can you imagine if we as South Africa or any country, I mean, we have a lot of people joining from other countries, is to say, if we have a purpose statement, to say this is what we are going to achieve, and everybody rallies around it, regardless of your political views or your and that's the same. So whether it's on a large scale, a country, or the world with the UN, the Sustainable Development Goals, or an organization, whether it's large or big or small, it doesn't really matter. That's my one point. And my second point I wanted to make is, like, a lot of times people, when we start talking about purpose or governance or ethics, people think that we are against dividends and shareholders. It is aligned. Like, I really believe that good governance, companies who are well governed, they perform better on the bottom line, and they actually pay more dividends to shareholders, because I fully believe in dividends. Shareholders are the investors that provide us with capital. So I do think that we have to destigmatize this link between more philosophical conversations, a purpose statement, and ethics and whatever, and governance, and bottom line. It needs to be recognized that is a very important part of it. And that it is we believe in it as well. Let's call it the industry. So I definitely think that if people take this back to work or organization, and you have the slide, I mean, this is a very interesting slide, Carol, which I find very interesting. It's to say, like, well, if we do these things and we have a purpose and everything that goes together with it, it will result in eventually in performance. Okay, so sorry, Anne-Marie, I just had a bit of a sidewise.
No.
I think may I just pick up on what Ronald is saying? That is quite interesting, because in our side of the world as well, we pick it up as clients sometimes saying, this purpose stuff is fluffy, it's soft stuff. It's not really, we want the numbers, Carol, we want the data. The data is saying, but this fluffy stuff that you're talking about, it's not, we can't like work with it. And what's interesting is that when we get the fluffy philosophical stuff right, we actually get the numbers right. So if people know, if people understand, and people really connect to themselves and locate themselves within your business vision, it will translate into money. So if someone walks into your store, a practical example, and we got this as feedback from our clients where they were saying, you know what, our people show up differently. As such, our customers are like, what have you guys done? What has changed? The way when I walk into a store, people just walk up to me and they speak to me in this particular way. There's something about the way purpose shapes company cultures, because purpose is not just a statement, it's always supported by lived behaviors. So if I want to help people find purpose and grow at within people, one of the behaviors that we would have is solve at source, make change fun. So I know that when I am approaching a client session and I want to solve at source, I need to be present, I need to deep listen, and these are the behaviors I carry into my work situation. And whatever purpose you create, what are the behaviors that are called your values, or whatever you want to call them, that support this way of being? And those behaviors and that consistent way of showing up that is supported by great feedback and opportunities for growth will translate into dollars and cents. It's just that it doesn't translate there and then. And it's the patience of waiting for the cultural shift to take place as you implement your purpose. So there is a lot of work with the destigmatization of the fluffy philosophical stuff around purpose.
No, absolutely. And it's, I think also that word, Ronelle, that you used in your slide on the tree, which often people, I don't think, fully understand or, get, is that integrated. We still see, we live in boardrooms, so we sit in board meetings listening to strategy presentations, and it will be all about the numbers. And maybe if we're lucky here towards the end, there's a slide or two about our stakeholders and, mostly focused on our CSR or CSI spend and things like that. It's in that what I was referring to, the silo kind of, approach. It's not just part of who we are and how we do business. And I think Ronelle's point is very, true in the sense that we, in the book Net Positive, that was written by Paul Pullman, the CEO of ex-CEO of Unilever, he says, look, let's be blunt about this. No company will survive, no business will survive without profit. Profit is like the oxygen for the business. But, he says, if you think that breathing is all that life is about, then you are sorely mistaken, and missing out big time. And I think, that is to have always been to me such a good illustration to actually illustrate how these things hang together and how you do need all of this in order to take your organization forward. And I must say, I do think my experience is that many boards still battle with just making it part of the DNA. We were talking, is it part of your DNA? And I saw a comment from Karen Pimenta and Alex Forbes saying purpose shapes the company's culture. And that is just so absolutely true. We see that, in the boardrooms that we operate in as well.
That is so true. Purpose is at the heart of company culture. So these are just some examples of some organizations that we've worked with, from South Africa all the way to California, and some of the purpose that they have there. So Amy's Kitchen, Woolworths, British Land crafted their own, by the way, places people often, sometimes you get an organization that has their own purpose and they'll tell you this is what we want it to be, or this is the one that we've had, and you have to build and help them build meaning into that. So those are quite some interesting tensions to work with, but nonetheless, all I can simply say is when people understand who they are within a business, they can show up better.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so beautiful, Carol. And we as businesses can show up so much better if we understand, who we are and why we're here. And it's for me an important point in closing off as well is that I think it's not just a one-time event. It is something that we need to continuously revisit because I have also seen organizations who came up with a purpose many years ago, or a purpose statement, because of the nature of leadership over the years, they had drifted away from that original, why do we exist? What's the problem we wanted to solve? What was the impact we wanted to have? They have lost their way, and unfortunately only realize it when they see the bottom line is no longer as, as great as it used to be. And then sometimes the penny only dropped to see, oh, you know what? We've drifted completely away from our original purpose, which means we've lost the trust of stakeholders. We've lost our legitimacy. So you need to guard your purpose. You need to monitor and there needs to be zero tolerance for any behavior, any decision, any activity that is not completely aligned with that purpose. So I want to, in closing, because I see our time is running out, just again to remind people, we're really looking forward. For those of you who attended our conference last year, I don't need to tell you what a grand affair it was. We're co-hosting it this year with the Institute of Directors. They're also our partners in this, and that in itself is adding a statue to our conference this year that we're very excited about. We've got a very interesting, diverse group of speakers here, global speakers. As you can see, as I get the helicopter going over my head just now, hopefully you didn't pick up that sound. But I'm particularly also looking forward to listening to our keynote speaker in the afternoon, Bron Pretorius, who is, the personification of Hotel McCarthy in this country, an absolutely respected, ethical leader in the country, who wrote a book that was published a couple of years ago on his leadership lessons. And a lot of what we were talking about today will come from his book. Professor King is also going to be there, from what I understand. He will be launching his autobiography this year, or this month in July. And apart from just opening the conference for us with some wise words, he's also going to be there, and we're going to have some gifts. Bron's book, Mervin's book, and some of them, Mervin will also sign some of the books. So this is an event not to be missed. Ronel, do you think I've earned my keep for the month now? I'm joking. No, we're really, really looking forward to this event. Purpose, the business case for purpose. So we really want the penny to drop, that this is not the fluffy stuff, that's separate from the survival, the growth, the heart of your business. This is what your business should be about. So, Carol, I know you're off. I think you're relocating, you said, back to London shortly. Not sure whether you've started packing, but from our side, thank you so much for taking the time, not only to join us, but to prepare, to just share your passion for what you do. It's so visible when you talk, and you're obviously aligned with your own North Star. So thank you for setting that example. Ronel, it's always a pleasure to share the stage with you. I just love listening to you and the insight that you bring. I was thinking when Carol was talking Ikigai, I learned about Ikigai from Ronel, Carol. So, so I was glad that I knew what you were talking about, and that's thanks to Ronel, to the team who's put all of this together. For those of you in the room with us today, thank you so much. Have a blessed Friday. May the Springboks win tomorrow. And yes, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much.